Hello and welcome to the Semifinal Submission webinar for the Solar Decathlon 2024 Design Challenge. My name is Taylor Ryan and I am the competition manager for the Design Challenge from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, or NREL, and I am joined by my colleague here, Nick Sindrich, who is also on the Solar Decathlon organizer team at NREL. This is a quick overview of what we'll cover in today's webinar, ranging from technical guidance, our upcoming semifinal competition event, and semifinal submission deliverable. We'll go over finalists versus exhibition teams in the competition, some resources to support you as a design challenge team, as well as our upcoming dates and next steps. Starting with some guidance from the Solar Decathlon organizers, we wanted to provide an updated distribution of teams across the 4 competition divisions. Those divisions are single-family housing, attached housing, multifamily building, and education building. As a reminder, all teams are required to finalize their division selection by the semifinal submission deliverable, which is due on February 20th, 2024. As another reminder, per the rules, up to 10 finalist teams in each of the 4 divisions will be selected by jurors during the semifinal competition event in February. If you notice that your team is in a division with a large number of other teams and you have the flexibility, you might consider being strategic with your division selection to increase your chances of becoming a finalist team. One other thing to note on this slide is that this is the most updated information that the organizers have based on information that teams provided in team registration and the project summary optional deliverable that was due in December. And we expect this distribution of teams to change moving forward as well. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Nick Sindrich, who will go through some more technical guidance for teams in the competition. Over to you, Nick.
Thanks, Taylor. Happy to join you for a few technical items for teams today. Zero energy being one. So as a central project requirement, a design project submission must be a zero energy building. Well, what does that mean? For buildings or residential projects, both for single family and attached housing, you need to meet the zero energy ready version 2 requirements, and those are linked here. For commercial buildings, there are minimum energy use intensity targets. That's the amount of energy used per square foot on an annual basis and must be achieved. These requirements set baseline parameters to guarantee a minimum level of building performance, and that's before the addition of renewable energy sources. And this is to eliminate a scenario where a building could be an absolute energy hog with half an acre of solar PV to make up for it, and that's really not the design, the kind of elegant design solution we're looking for. And for the renewable energy systems themselves, these systems must comply and provide a complete offset of the yearly energy consumption of your building. That means if your building is grid tied, any energy consumption must be offset with consideration of the energy it takes to get power to your building. So there are a number of ways to account for the source energy. ASHRAE standard 228, it does a great job of laying out how you can consider source energy, but unfortunately it's behind a paywall, and right now we can't offer it for free to teams. But Energy Star also has some sort size ratios based on national averages that your teams can use, and that's linked here. Or you might just have a very good understanding of your local grid mix for your project, and you can do your own calculation to define the source energy factor. In any case, for any grid supplied power to your building, you need to offset that amount times the source energy factor of your grid source to determine how much renewable energy system you need to supply for a complete offset. Next slide, Taylor. Carbon impact. So what are we talking about here? This year, we've placed a strong emphasis on having teams evaluate the net carbon impact that their projects have in specific regard to whether the projects are new construction or retrofit projects. There are millions of buildings out there that need to be retrofit to meet energy goals, and we need your help and your ambition to meet that challenge. Certainly, there's a need for new buildings and to resolve housing shortages, provide social and economic support. But if you're going to create a new building, there should be a good reason. because new buildings require a lot of carbon generation for construction. There are magnitudes of existing buildings out there that can be retrofit, and we want competitors to understand and analyze that new construction to retrofit trade-off. So that takes the form of providing to the jury a defensible rationale for the selection of new construction or retrofit. Next slide. Division requirements are set to establish parameters for building types for projects and to set a level playing field for teams to compete against each other. We've received a number of questions and concept design submissions which challenge these parameters and most notably in the education division. So note that you can have a great project, but we have to keep these parameters to keep the playing field fair and level. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the teams to prove to the jury that the projects comply with those division criteria. But please understand that these requirements were established to create that level playing field among participants from the perspective of energy, size, so energy and cost. And if some of the criteria are not met, then the judging is going to reflect that. Next slide, Taylor. So a little bit about some tools that are available. The project summaries that have been provided so far have, and historically, characteristically have been insufficient in terms of describing project costs. This is a critical part of defining your project. Resources are available. A full list of software available is on the quick links on the Solar Decathlon skill page. The software tools relevant to our discussion today are about cost and carbon. So these tools are RS Means and One-Click LCA and Tally LCA for carbon analysis. Both of these carbon lifecycle tools use existing environmental product declarations and material information to support carbon analysis of your building design. It's the same story for RS Means. It's a widely used product to establish a baseline understanding of cost associated with labor and materials for the construction of your project. So these tools are available, and then you can use them to make your cost and carbon analysis more accurate and more relevant. So back to you, Taylor.
Thank you, Nick. Moving on to competition timeline, we are currently in January 2024, and the organizers do expect to release an updated version of the rules by the end of this week or by January 26th. This version of the rules will be updated to include minor updates and clarifications. There will not be any fundamental changes to competition requirements as part of this rules update, but please keep an eye out for that this week. Moving forward from there, teams are expected to sign up for a semi-final presentation time slot by February 13th, 2024 at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. The organizers will send instructions to sign up for that semi-final presentation slot via the submission site rather, so keep an eye out for that in early February as those semi-final presentation time slots will be assigned to teams on a first come, first served basis. From there, we have our first required deliverable in the competition due, the semi-final submission deliverable. That will be due by February 20th, 2024 at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Just a few days after that semi-final submission deliverable, we will host our virtual semi-final competition event on Friday, February 23rd and Saturday, February 24th. We'll talk more about this, but this is a really exciting 2-day virtual event where you'll present your project to jurors, and the jurors will select up to 10 finalist teams in each of the competition divisions to move forward to the next stage of the competition. If your team is not selected as a finalist during the semifinal competition event, but you would like to continue your participation, you can do so as an exhibition team. If you opt to become an exhibition team, you'll have to submit a letter of intent the week after the semifinal competition event by Thursday, February 29th, 2024 at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. And we'll talk more about what that letter of intent is expected to include. Finally, we have our last required deliverable in the competition, the final submission deliverable, and that will be due by April 2nd, 2024 at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. The jurors will then begin reviewing your final submission deliverables ahead of the culmination of the design challenge at the Solar Decathlon competition event, which will be held Friday, April 19th through Sunday, April 21st, 2024. This will be a hybrid event, meaning teams have the option to participate virtually or in person, with event activities held at NREL in Golden, Colorado. Like I said, this is a culmination of the design challenge. It's a really exciting weekend event where you'll have the opportunity to showcase all the work you've done on your design challenge project. You'll have the opportunity to meet other teams and faculty from across the world. And our industry sponsored jurors and industry representatives will be there to network with you and evaluate your projects as well. Now, looking ahead to the semifinal competition event coming up next month. Again, this will be a 2-day virtual event held on Friday, February 23rd and Saturday, February 24th. All participating teams in the design challenge will have an opportunity to present to jurors for eligibility to be selected as a finalist team in the competition. On top of that, you'll receive valuable feedback from those jurors on your design project that you can then incorporate for the final submission deliverable coming up in April. Also, during this event, you'll have the opportunity to connect with peers and, of course, those industry leader jurors, and you'll have the opportunity to watch other team presentations so you can see what they're doing with their zero energy building design. Now, a breakdown of logistics for the semifinal competition event. On Friday, February 23rd, we will host semifinal division presentations from 12 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And on Saturday, February 24th, we will host semifinal division presentations from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we expect to make those finalist announcements around 4 o'clock Eastern Time, which we will do on the Solar Decathlon social media channels, as well as via email. Now, an important note here, again, is that all teams are required to sign up for a presentation slot during the semifinal competition event. The organizers will release instructions on how to sign up for that presentation time slot in early February via the submission site. But generally speaking, each team will sign up for 1 2-hour time block during either Friday, February 23rd, or Saturday, February 24th. The organizers will then assign your team 1 20-minute presentation time slot within that 2-hour time block you indicated that your team was available. These are 20-minute presentation time slots because that accounts for 10 minutes of your presentation to jurors, 8 minutes of Q&A with those jurors, and then 2 minutes of transition time for the next team to get ready for their presentation. Each team will be scheduled for their semifinal presentation slot on a first-come, first-served basis. So we recommend having one member of your team ready to sign up for that presentation slot as soon as it becomes available in early February. As an example, your team could indicate that you were available between 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, February 23rd. And the organizers could then schedule your 20-minute presentation slot from 12:10 to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time during that 2-hour availability block that you had indicated when you signed up. Now, an overview of the finalist selection process. This is all included in the rules, but just a quick recap of this. Finalists will be selected based on the semifinal submission. So your team will first submit a completed semifinal submission deliverable via the submission site by February 20th at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Your team will then present at the virtual semifinal competition event to a panel of industry expert jurors for your division. Those jurors will then deliberate and select up to 10 finalist teams per division, or up to 40 total in the competition. And finalists will then compete at the April competition event. So now, what is included in the semifinal submission? This is all outlined in section 6 of the rules, so please make sure to review that. But generally speaking, this deliverable includes an updated 2-page project summary, your 10-minute presentation slides for the semifinal competition event, each individual team member's completion of the Building Science Education series, which I'll talk about more in just a moment here, And then finally, your team's final division selection for the competition. According to the rules, each member of every design challenge team must complete the building science education series by the due date for the semifinal submission deliverable on February 20th. The alternative to this is for your faculty advisor to provide an equivalency waiver that states the members of your team received similar education through equivalent coursework or curriculum. For those students who do need to take the Building Science Education series, this is a series of short video modules and quizzes that are designed to help you understand the fundamentals of building science and zero energy building design. Instructions for how to access the Building Science Education series can be found under the quick links on the submission site. Moving on to the evaluation rubric that will be used by jurors to evaluate your semifinal submission deliverable, as well as your semifinal presentation. This rubric can be found in section 5.4.1 of the rules and lists out the criteria that jurors will be evaluating your team against. These criteria include design goals, target market, consideration of local climate, building codes and standards, your team's plan for the final submission deliverable, building science, and project selection for carbon impact. Within this evaluation rubric, you can see the evaluation statements that jurors will use again to evaluate your team and select up to 10 finalists in each of the 4 competition divisions. One criteria to call attention to in this evaluation rubric is the project selection for carbon impact. Like Nick talked about, your team will be expected to provide a defensible rationale for the selection of either a retrofit or a new construction project in the competition, and also demonstrate an understanding of the operational and embodied carbon impacts of your design project. Now on to some best practices for the semifinal presentation. Like it said in the rules, this will be a 10-minute presentation to jurors, followed by 8 minutes of Q&A with those same jurors. Some best practices we recommend for teams include highlighting the unique elements of your project that really help it stand out against the other teams in the competition. We also encourage you to outline a realistic timeline for finishing the design through the final submission. Jurors are not expecting a fully completed design project during this semifinal presentation, but they really want to evaluate your team's potential in the competition and what your plan is for creating a strong final submission deliverable in April 2024. Lastly, 10 minutes might sound like a lot, but it'll go by really fast. So we encourage your team to practice and make sure you're staying within that 10-minute period for your presentation to jurors. And overall, when you're creating your semifinal presentation slides and talking points, we recommend you do so with the guiding question of how you would pitch your project to a client and make sure that that client knows it's a really compelling zero energy building design project. Now for some distinction between finalist versus exhibition teams in the competition. Up to 40 finalist teams will be selected during the semifinal competition event. And with that, you will be invited to compete in person or virtually during the semifinal competition event in April 2024. With that, up to 7 students and 1 faculty member can attend the competition event in person at NREL, and all members of the team can participate in the event virtually. Finalist teams are eligible for a division winner and grand winner awards during that competition event as well. It's worth noting here that if your team might not have every team member traveling in person to the competition event, that's okay. We will facilitate hybrid presentations, meaning that you can have a combination of in-person and virtual presenters during that event. Now for exhibition teams, if your team is not selected as a finalist during the semifinal competition event, that does not mean your solar decathlon journey has to end. You can opt to participate as an exhibition team in the design challenge. Exhibition teams complete all the required deliverables, including that final submission deliverable, according to the requirements that are outlined in the rules. They'll then have an opportunity to present their project to a panel of reviewers during the competition event, although they will not be eligible for any division winner or grand winner awards. Finally, up to 2 students and 1 faculty member from each exhibition team can attend the competition event in person at NREL. And similar to finalist teams, all members of your team are invited to participate virtually. We really encourage your team to continue your participation and learning experience in the design challenge as an exhibition team, even if you're not selected as a finalist during semifinals. This will allow you to learn from other teams, network with sponsors and industry partners during the competition event, finish a project for your portfolio that really demonstrates your career-ready skills through design challenge. And on top of that, some members of your team will be able to travel to NREL in April 2024. Again, if you do opt to continue participation as an exhibition team, you'll have to complete a letter of intent the week after the semifinals event. This will be due on February 29th, 2024, and teams will have to upload it to the box link that is included in section 6 of the rules. This exhibition team letter of intent is really short and informal, and is basically just a declaration of your team's intent to continue participation as an exhibition team in the design challenge. On to some resources to support your upcoming deliverables and event participation. We do have templates that are currently available under the quick links on the submission site. We have templates available for the project summary component of your semifinal submission deliverable, as well as those semifinal presentation slides. It's worth noting that these templates are absolutely not required, but they are available for teams as a resource to help you organize information and have a really clean, professional looking submission by February 20th. We also have examples from past competitors available under the quick links on the submission site, so you can go through the examples from previous years and see what a successful design challenge submission looked like in the past. One note of caution here: if you are looking at deliverables from past competition years, please note that the divisions or the contests of the design challenge have evolved over time, so they might not reflect this year's design challenge rules requirement. Wanted to end with some important upcoming dates here. We have a lot going on in February. Our next design challenge office hours session will be held on Tuesday, February 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Office hours are an open session for you to bring questions and conversation to the organizers. We want your participation and interaction during these office hours sessions, and you help us create really great guidance for other teams. So please make sure to have at least one member of your team come to that office hours session on February 6th. More information about how to attend and the Zoom links for that are included under the quick links on the submission site as well. From there, we have our first required deliverable in the competition due on February 20th by 5 o'clock Eastern Time. That is the semifinal submission deliverable. One important note here is to log in early to the submission site and check out the details and the requirements that are included on the applications page of that site to make sure that you're not coming in there 5 minutes before the deadline and that you don't have any trouble submitting that. We will not accept any submissions after that 5 o'clock Eastern Time deadline on February 20th, and you will not be able to continue participation as a design challenge team if you do not submit that semifinal submission deliverable on time. From there, again, we have our exciting 2-day virtual event, semifinals on February 23rd and 24th during the times you see outlined on this slide here. Last but not least, I wanted to extend a big thank you to all the Solar Decathlon sponsors, especially our gold level sponsor Legions. Thank you to these organizations for their generous support of Solar Decathlon students like you. We really could not do this competition without them. If you're a Solar Decathlon student, we also encourage you to look through this list of industry leading organizations who are supporting your work as a Design Challenge student, and make sure to seek them out at the upcoming events because they are looking for Solar Decathlon students like you to hire into their open job opportunities. With that, thank you so much for attending the Semifinal Submission webinar. And if you have any questions, please reach out to sddesign@nrel.gov or solardecathlon@nrel.gov. Thank you.